Today's episode, we talk about elastomeric patching compound. So what we have with us today is we've got 2 buckets of this custom patch. One's got texture, one doesn't. Let's kind of demystify. I mean, if I go to the paint store today, or if I go to Home Depot, there's a whole freaking aisle that has, all these different spackles and quick dry this and caulking tubes and, I'm trying to paint my house. What in the heck, where do I start?
But for interior patching, just your small pinholes from nails or posters or stuff along those lines, we could use just a lightweight patching compound. Some guys have drywall mud already with them, and they just use that, or a putty or something along those lines. We use the putties more for your wood. They're a little more sandable, and that would be more for your trim, doors, and casing.
So when I see stuff that says wood putty, I want to use that on the inside of the house.
Yes, there are different types of putties. Like we have, for exterior, there's a Durham's Rock Hard putty, and it's a product that you mix with water, and it's an extremely hard product. So there are different types of wood putty. There's an interior and exterior versions. Some of them are stain grade putties, where they're actual natural wood, and we put those in the nail holes, and then we stain the whole surface, and it's an even stain with those natural wood fillers. Then there's other ones where we're doing like a white, casing or something along those lines, and we just need basic patching compound to sand down and paint over. Just basic putty.
Okay. Now with the wood putty that dries really hard, what's the best application for that?
With like the Durham's Rock Hard, I found the best situations for that is a lot of like woodpecker holes. The reason I say that is because those are holes that are normally in the side of a flat surface, not like a fascia board or something along those lines. Why I don't like to see that product on fascia boards is because we get a lot of expansion and contraction. And as that wood expands and contracts like this, that putty may be actually harder than the fascia board itself. So then that putty is going to want to fall off after a year or 2 of expansion and contraction. Solutions for that, we can move into products like this. These are elastomerics. What the definition of an elastomeric is it's more or less a paint that's flexible. It's going to flex on average, 200 to 400%, and then go back to its natural state. So a lot of times what we're doing is we're using that on some fascia boards, properly prepared fascia boards, where you have your grain cracking, where the grain is actually opened up. Now what we have is when it rains and we get moisture, that moisture actually rolls down and gets inside of that wood, causes more expansion and more contraction, and causes that wood to wear out even faster. So in a lot of cases we can take like a smooth patching compound, brush it in there, it fills out those cracks, fills them in, so we get more of a runoff of water, and we don't get that water really getting into that wood. And that definitely gives us some longevity on the patch. So we do want to make sure that the wood's not completely rotted through.
Now, how good is this stuff at like adhering from so I brush this stuff on, and sometimes we'll get out there and maybe you're pressure washing an old job, and you'll see like the back, as it's peeling off, you've got like chunks of putty stuck to the wood that have kind of fallen off. Does this stuff, how does this stuff fail when it fails, or what does that look like?
We put plenty of product on there. What may happen is it may start to curl a little bit, and we can just cut that off and you do a reapplication later down the line. But yeah, it's going to expand and contract, so it's going to keep moving. But over 10 years or so, you're going to lose the majority of that expansion and contraction.
Okay.
It'll be a little more brittle, which then will maybe try to come off. And at that point, your wood may be past its lifespan. One of the surfaces that we have a lot of here in Arizona is stucco.
Okay.
We do have a lot of cracking in the stucco. There's a lot of different textures to stucco too. This particular patching compound is just a smooth one. That's more what we would use for your smooth stucco, or like the wood fascia boards we discussed. This one here is our textured, states right there, and this actually has small pieces of aggregate in it. So when we are patching stucco, it helps to blend in a lot better. A patch is always a patch. I like to explain that because we can do some pretty amazing stuff, but in some cases it still is a patch. For stucco, the techniques that we typically like to see, it really kind of depends on the size of the crack. We have paint products that will fill cracks too. So we would have to get with our local manufacturers to find out what those products are. But we can use this for our general cracks throughout the house. Application technique we typically recommend is you can take the product and you have a crack and you brush that product into the crack. You have a small bucket of water, probably a little bit of water in there, and then what I like to recommend is a stiff bristle brush, very similar to what you use to clean your dishes with, or the same exact brush you clean your dishes with the little handle. Has a stiff bristle, so what that's going to do is we're going to dip it in the water and we're going to go counterclockwise, clockwise, and what we're doing is we're pulling this material away from the crack and making it blend better.
Okay.
But yeah, stucco, we have smooth stucco, lace, dash stucco. Dash stucco is one of our toughest. We'll see that a lot from the 70s on block walls, and that's one of our hardest. Just painting it will leave marks on the dash stucco. Smooth stucco is also going to be a little more difficult just because it's a smoother surface. With the texture, it tends to hide the imperfections.
Got it.
So.
I'd like to thank you guys so much for joining us. Please go ahead and leave your comments, questions. We'll get back to you guys next week when we've got our next episode.